Hi, I'm Paul from the Studio Rats. This is the first video in the series where I'm going to be looking at my top 10 favourite plugins from Waves. In this video, we're going to be looking at F6, which is a fully featured, amazing EQ, and also my favourite compressor, possibly of all time, which is the Waves CLA-2A. We do have an affiliate link with Waves for these plugins, so if you are considering checking out these plugins, perhaps you consider clicking on the link in the notes below, and that would also help out the channel as well. Let's get to it. The first plugin that I'm going to bring in is Waves F6. Now, the reason why I'm bringing in an EQ plugin on this vocal as the first plugin is because I would always choose to have an EQ as the first plugin in my signal chain. Now, before we change any EQ, let's take the vocal out of solo and have a listen to where we are so far.
Lose my step and stumble. Darkness comes from under.
As you can see, this plugin has a built-in analyzer, and that's really handy to see what's going on with all of the frequencies in your track. What I'm going to do is to solo the vocal. Let's play it again.
Lose my step and stumble.
As you can see, there's quite a bit of information going on in the lower frequencies that we just don't need in this track. So what I'm going to do is to bring in my low cut, and let's turn that on, and let's filter it off to about 80 Hertz.
Lose my step and stumble. Darkness comes from under.
There are a couple of frequencies in this vocal that I just want to tame just a little bit. So what I'm going to do is to go to band 3, and I'm going to solo that band.
Lose my step and stumble.
And let's tighten up the cue a bit.
Darkness comes from under.
Now I'm going to move the frequency around until I find the actual frequency that I want to tame.
Lose my step and stumble. Darkness comes from under.
Let's take it out of solo. I've got a couple of choices. I can either use this band as a static EQ, or I can use it as a dynamic EQ. So let's use a dynamic EQ for this frequency. I'm just going to bring back the threshold. I'm going to bring back the range to about -5 dB, and now see what happens.
Lose my step and stumble. Darkness comes from under.
As you can see, the F6 EQ is using that band now as a dynamic EQ, so it's only being affected once it reaches past a certain threshold. Now, there's another frequency that I want to get rid of, so I'm just going to click on band 2 and solo that as well.
Lose my step and stumble.
And I'm just going to dip that a little bit and tighten up the cue.
Lose my step and stumble.
And let's boost the high end just a little bit.
Lose my step and stumble.
And let's hear that in the track.
Lose my step and stumble. Darkness comes from under.
The next plugin that I'm going to bring in on this vocal is Waves CLA-2A. Now, this is an emulation of an LA-2A compressor, and it sounds fantastic, especially on vocals and bass. But today I'm going to be using it on vocals. This is a really simple compressor to use. So we've basically got 3 controls. You can either choose to compress or to limit. We've got a gain, which is basically the volume, and we've got peak reduction, which is a control that we can adjust the amount of compression that we're going to be using on the vocal. So let's have a listen to the vocal again, and let's bring in the peak reduction.
Lose my step and stumble. Darkness comes
Bring up the gain.
from under. I don't know why, but I'm always running. I don't know why, but I'm always running.
So as you can hear, even though we're compressing to just past minus 10 dBs worth of compression, it still sounds great. Without doubt, this is my favourite vocal compressor, and it gets used on every single mix that I do. As I said earlier, we do have a link to the plugins in the notes below. So if you want to click on there, that will take you straight to the Waves website. I'm Paul from the Studio Rats. I really hope you guys got something out of this. If you did, consider liking and subscribing and clicking on the bell button, and you'll be notified of any future video that comes out from the Studio Rats. I'm Paul, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.